All right, we are live. What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to a live edition of The Kingdom Says. It's been a couple weeks, been like maybe just like 1 or 2 weeks since we did a live episode. I'm joined tonight by one of my two usual co-hosts, Mr. Arrowhead Tom. How we doing tonight, Tom?
Dude, it has been the longest week in like that you could cram into 7 days.
Yeah.
Man, and I know it feels that way for the Chiefs fans too, as we're gearing up for this gauntlet of games and
Mm-hmm.
and such a short period of time. So busy time of the year with the holidays around the corner. Yeah, man, I'm doing well though. Keeping my head on my shoulders and excited for a lot of things that are happening around here, and we're rocking and rolling, man.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things on the horizon for the Kingdom Says. But yeah, definitely a busy time of the year. Kyle, our other co-host, Kyle Henning, is not with us tonight because his team, his college football team, Notre Dame, is currently playing a playoff right now, about to kick off against Indiana. So I'm not going to say shout out Notre Dame because, fight on USC. But I like seeing Kyle happy. So it's it would be cool to see them win, obviously. And I know he would enjoy it. So should be a pretty fun night for us over here talking Chiefs football as we get a couple people still coming into the live stream. Lot of good news on the horizon for the Chiefs, which is ideal. Yeah, I don't know. There's one, I guess the one big piece of news. Well, I guess there's two injury related big pieces of news that were announced this week. The one of which being something that we kind of all knew and figured with Patrick Mahomes and his ankle injury, rolling up on it at the end of the Cleveland game last week, and he all reports said he was probably going to be able to go back in the game if he needed. Just a mild roll up. He said on his press conference the next couple of days that it was not as bad as the one in that he suffered versus the Jaguars, which he still went back and played again. And so yeah, he practiced full throughout this entire week, and he is confirmed to be going.
Yeah, love Pat's fighting spirit, right? And I know, we have a lot of people in the kingdom who are worried about how this is going to hold up. But I think if you followed Patrick at any point in his career, you know that you were going to cut one of those legs off to keep him off that field. So, he was trying to go back in, during the kneecap incident when it was on the side of his leg. So, he's a tough guy. Preferably, we would like him to not have to do that. And I also, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I said, like, hey, the offensive line needs to challenge themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line looked better with Tooney at left tackle, but also we talked about it in our last episode, the play calling there. We need to be a little bit smarter and protect Pat down the stretch here, which is such a strange thing for a staff that is otherwise pretty conservative about players' health. The fact that they were just kind of willing to dangle him out there. I not thrilled with that one.
Definitely wasn't ideal for him to just keep on running or passing the ball and calling these dropbacks and stuff. And, like we had said on our last episode, like the offensive line was holding up pretty good for the first couple quarters. And then when it's just become so predictable that you're passing the ball almost every down, they started getting teed off on a little bit and getting a little tired because, they just weren't having very successful drives. There was a lot of 3 and outs. It was the most punts ever in the Mahomes era game. So that's crazy. It wasn't a lot of production, and it was mostly, like you said, because of the play calling and not putting Pat in a great position, with whether it be just the pass blocking in general or the play calls, the designs. It just wasn't ideal. And there's obviously he got hit a lot of times during that game, and one of those being the time that he got rolled up on his ankle and almost decapitated on the other side of that thing. So it's, you don't want to see Pat getting hurt. Obviously, he's a really tough guy, and he'll play through a lot of it. But a lot of those things, they do kind of accumulate throughout the whole season. So
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to seeing hopefully an improved performance from the offensive line and just offense in general protecting Pat a little more.
Yeah. Well, and again, the play calling, run the ball.
Yeah.
But beyond that, just protecting Pat. That second half offense had no rhythm, had no, it's just a similar issue we've seen all year. They're still trying to find their chemistry. And I know we've got other injury news to kind of cover, to talk about some guys coming back, some guys not going to be active this week and all that. But man, finding some of that chemistry they're still searching for it. And that is pretty brutal at this point in the season to have an offense that just feels like it's still working things out from preseason. So,
right.
Yeah,
it's not an ideal
about,
spot to be in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a couple other injury related things as we are going to mention. Big one, really big one for the Chiefs. Return debut, Mr. Hollywood Brown making his season return after getting activated. I think he just got activated today. He returned to practice, I believe, last week. Wasn't quite ready to go. So he'll be making his season debut tomorrow versus the Texans after suffering an AC joint injury that ended up requiring surgery and a bunch of things. And it's almost expected that he might be out for the year after one preseason play, which was incredibly unfortunate and just really kind of derailed. And that's part of maybe why some of the Chiefs' offensive functions, because they've just lost so many different guys that they anticipated having there in those key roles. But we get to see Hollywood Brown, number 5, make his first appearance at Arrowhead tomorrow, Tom.
Yeah, I am excited for what this means for the offense as a whole. If you followed us during draft season and the conversation about Xavier Worthy, I will give that kid his flowers and say he has been better than I expected him to, tougher than I expected him to be, and really pleasantly surprised with what he's added to this offense. But getting somebody who has a little bit more experience, and one of the things that I don't think we've talked about is, Hollywood's been in the building with D-Hop and DJ and some of those other guys. Were kind of slowly poaching some of those Cardinals players the past couple of years. But so there's hopefully going to be some continued chemistry there, just in terms of the spacing downfield. And then I think even in the limited preseason and practice and stuff, we saw that Mahomes and Hollywood had some type of connection, some type of chemistry. And so hopefully that's something that, if we can use both of them and get Hopkins out there and Travis out there and kind of mix and match some of those player personnel packages, adds a little bit of variety to the game. And I think that's helpful, again, in terms of the spacing, because Hollywood, he's a deep threat, but he's good enough to run the other routes in the tree and be where he needs to be and kind of be that number 2, number 1 guy that you need him to be. And gives, DeAndre has been a really good pickup for the Chiefs. So they're pieced in together, and you could squint and kind of see it. And again, that also maybe opens us up for some more, kind of more specialized stuff for Xavier. So it's there, and we are really hoping, I think we're all hoping to see some of those connections develop. I mean, the number of almost passes to Xavier this year have been brutal. So we're that connection. I'm hungry for it. I know you're hungry for it. I think it'd be a really special one if Worthy and Mahomes can sort that out. So hopefully this kind of is another step in this. So
hopefully it kind of gives a little more spark to the offense that we've been missing, because really without Hollywood and obviously without Rashee Rice now, it's like you're definitely lacking in explosivity. You have Xavier Worthy and they've had to kind of use him in a wide receiver 1 type role. They haven't really been able to get a whole lot of deep shots to him. They've been doing more of some of the gadget stuff with him and getting them runs and jet sweeps and stuff like that. But having another vertical guy like Hollywood on the plate that can really just stretch the defense from both sides of the ball. You can get Xavier on one side, Hollywood on the other side, and you're really having a good opportunity, especially with D-Hop under the middle. Like, it's a good recipe. The Chiefs are definitely picking a really good time to get healthy with some of these key contributors that will hopefully come in. And, like we said, Hollywood's been in the building for a very long time. We've seen him on the sidelines of many games and whatnot. He's obviously should be pretty familiar with the things at this point. The chemistry with Pat should hopefully still be there a little bit after all the training camp work and whatnot that they did together. So that's going to be big. It's definitely going to be exciting. After that injury, it didn't even seem like we'd ever see Hollywood in a Chiefs jersey, and now he'll finally make his debut with 3 games left in the season. So it's great to get his feet wet a little bit before we really need him in that playoff run, coming up. That's gonna be when he really comes to shine. So
that's what's gonna matter. So it's good to get him in, get him warmed up. It's an upper body injury, so he's been running, so hopefully conditioning, all that stuff will be good. But still, want to make sure he's able to track and catch and all that stuff and can get in rhythm. Playing with Mahomes is different than playing with a lot of other guys. I know Hollywood's played with Kyler and Lamar and is used to kind of those extended plays, but Mahomes is a little bit different. And so I just think, next couple of weeks, get him in rhythm, figure out how to spread this offense out, how to space it. Really gives us some positive momentum, assuming our pass blocking holds up, as always. So
that's going to be the biggest thing. Yeah, it's going to be one of the biggest things for this game that we're looking at. And we mentioned these couple guys that are going to be playing. We have also some guys who are already confirmed to be out, one of which relating to the offensive line. DJ Humphries has already been ruled out for the second consecutive week after suffering that hamstring injury in his debut game for us. So more than likely we'll be seeing Joe Thuney out there again at left tackle with Mike Caliendo coming at left guard. Personally, I'm kind of okay with it. You do want to get DJ in there more and get him more comfortable, but also if he's not fully healthy, you don't want to rush him back and risk further injury when you're really going to need him once again for the playoff run. But I was a big fan of the offensive line last week. The configuration with putting Thuney out there at left tackle and moving Mike Caliendo at left guard. Thuney is not a tackle that we can obviously be honest about that, but he's such a talented player. His technique is incredible. His awareness, everything like that. He's just such a well-rounded player that I think he held his ground pretty good, especially going against Myles Garrett on the other side.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see him get another shot at it. He gets another full week of practice at left tackle with Mike Caliendo over there. So, just another week of building chemistry, building comfortability at that position, I think will be interesting to see. I think I'm at least intrigued by the potential of that starting 5.
Yeah. It's maybe it's not a position you want to be in as the coaching staff with where they're at right now. Yes, it's positive if Thuney and Caliendo hold up and that type of thing, but you kind of create some more problems for yourself down the stretch. If there is, if that offensive line gels that way, at what point do you leave it? If it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing, or do you put Humphries in and move Thuney back to his natural spot? Like, what's the tough decision to make this late in the season? Excuse me. Offensive line play does not bore me. It's been a very long day.
Yeah.
So I think, some of that can be a pretty tough spot for the coaching staff to be in. And of course, in crunch time, it's it's a big decision, right? But sounds like the plan is for Humphries to be ready to roll for Christmas Day, and to take that left tackle spot back. But if Thuney comes out and has a really good game against the Texans, who have a good defense, and they've got 45 sacks on the year, which is pretty dang good. I think that's something to think about. If is it worth if Caliendo and Tooney bring stabilization to that line, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
I don't
no
know.
kidding. Especially because they're running out of time. They're running out of time too. Like you only have, DJ's out this week, so they're going to have 2 weeks at most to really get him ready before you might potentially, have a playoff game. Hopefully, you have the 1 seed, but you have 2 games to decide whether you're going to 100% roll with him in a playoff game, because then you really can't. That's when it counts the most, is what lineup you run out there for the playoffs. So you got at least, potentially 2 more chances to see what he does and see how he can perform before you obviously have to make a decision on that. So, like you said, if Joe Tooney comes out and has a really good game and Caliendo has a good game again, like, I don't know, it's not a fun spot to be in for the coaching staff. I don't know how they really should approach it. They've been so optimistic about Humphreys, but if he's not healthy and if his hamstring is not performing, or you're risking, you could always, if he goes down mid game, you can always just slide Tooney back out, but it's just not the most ideal situation,
Yeah, but how much of that shuffling do you want to do when even the coaching staff themselves have said, hey, some of the struggles are with that communication, that continued continuity. There's the word. I can English. On the offensive line, that those communication pieces, picking up, blitzes and stunts and that type of thing, they've done terrible at it this year. Just to be blunt about it, they have gotten beat over and over again. And Kyle's is, one of the main people who pointed this out early on, is this is a coaching thing, right? And you would hope that they'd be able to, talk this out and figure this out. But, if they're moving pieces in and out, it's not as easy as it seems on paper to have those conversations or to know those calls, right? On that offensive line, there's usually it's kind of coded language, or it's quick, and sudden, even sometimes nonverbal. The center might be pointing at somebody, and you got to know who's supposed to get that guy, and it's not easy, and all it takes is one guy to mess up their assignment up front, and then the other 4 guys are, can all look a little bit silly. And so it's complicated, and having different bodies, rotating in and that type of thing. Sure, I know they practice it all, first team, second team, but it's much different when you're on the field and when you're in the lineup. And that doesn't excuse the lack of the issue being fixed from a coaching standpoint, but it's worth thinking about, in terms of their ability to gel as a group and as a unit. But also shout out to Mike Caliendo, who's earned a place in this role,
doing really good. Yeah, he's been the new Allegretti basically for the Chiefs. Yeah. He filled in at left guard in the Super Bowl and did fine. Then last week he was like the 5th highest ranked Chief overall. So it was a pretty good showing from him, which is like once you say, it's like the drop off, you gotta weigh the risk and rewards, because if the drop off at left guard isn't that big and the gain at left tackle is so much more, it's gonna be interesting. Hopefully everyone gets healthy, and DJ, we can at least see him in a couple more games of action, and he can put together some real good games and get that chemistry flowing together, and that'll do just numbers for the offense and their success of something that's just been so uncertain and unprotected. Really, it's just the offensive line has been not good this year, and we'll hopefully get a couple more weeks to figure that out before it's crunch time and it's do or die. So with that, the one more injury that was already announced to be out, Chamari Connor is out with the concussion that he got last week after getting a thigh by Nick Chubb to his head. So he unfortunately still didn't pass the concussion protocol, I'm guessing. So we'll be out without Chamari. Obviously, that secondary has had a lot of different shuffling in it already, losing Jalen Watson and now losing Chamari for this game. Will be interesting to see kind of what packages and who goes into where. I don't think we're not going to see Steven Nelson. They already announced like their practice squad elevations and stuff like that, so he won't be going for this game. But you still have Christian Roland Wallace, you have Josh Williams and Najee Johnson in there. It'll be
Mhm.
I'm not sure exactly who will kind of get what role because
Yeah,
that's
I
a
think
bit
we'll
of a
see a
struggle.
lot more Jaden Hicks.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
You
another
know,
more Jay Hicks.
and we'll see how much they let him play some of that slot safety hybrid. I'm curious if maybe Nazi gets a little bit more of those slot matchups, and they let
Yeah,
Josh play on the perimeter more. Um, I that to me makes some sense. Obviously, the Texans have Nico Collins, who has been a stud for them, and he's a bigger receiver. I think he's 6'3" or 6'4",
mhm.
and that's that'll be an interesting matchup. I I never want to doubt Trent McDuffie, but he's 6'4". You can't teach that.
Can't teach that. Yeah,
um, yeah. Um,
bada boom.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, okay, all right, good. There's a
I picked up on you. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, we got the reference. Shout out,
Big Cass
God,
and
thank you.
Enzo
Yeah,
Amore.
Casa
Yeah.
Um, gosh, wow, that's a trip. I'm sorry, that was like 10
I
years ago
love this.
too. It
I
doesn't
love
feel
the
like 10 years
Cats. Yeah,
ago.
they were electric. Yeah, they were
Yeah, you
electric.
can't teach that.
You can't. No.
But yeah, but Josh Williams 6'2". You can't teach that
6'2".
either. So
That's pretty close.
I
Yeah.
wish you could teach that man to get his head around and maybe stay in bounds on special teams. But
Yeah.
he has cleaned up his play the last couple of weeks, and I do really like that young man. I say that all tongue in cheek. I think he's come a long way to make this, to find his spot in this league. So I don't mean that to be disparaging or anything. It's tongue in cheek, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially they cannot. We've talked a lot about the injuries on the line and finding left tackle. They cannot afford any more injuries. Um, you know, in the secondary, they just
Yeah.
can't. So
They're definitely getting low on munitions in the secondary for sure. It's not the most ideal situation, but overall the defense though has been trending upwards. They did have obviously a really good game last week against the Jameis Winston led Browns. It's going to be a tougher matchup this week. CJ Stroud and the Texans are a much better offense, although they haven't been there. I mean, I think they're on a win streak at the moment, but they haven't been like how they were last year on CJ Stroud's rookie season. They weren't as explosive. They've had some injuries as well that they've had to deal with, but definitely just a much sharper quarterback to go up against than Jameis. He's not going to turn it over nearly as much. So, and they've got a pretty good run game as well with Joe Mixon and Damian Pierce and whatnot. So overall, I mean, what are your initial thoughts of going against this Texans offense?
man, this Texans team has been interesting. I think it's slept on a little bit. I'm surprised that there's as much confidence. I think everyone's kind of focused on the Mahomes injury, but this is a good Texans team. They've been banged up, throughout the year. They've had pieces kind of coming and going, but when you look at it on paper, this is a very evenly matched. Even matchup. Very similar teams. The biggest thing for Houston is going to be protecting C.J. Stroud. They've not done a great job of that this year. They have given up. Oh goodness, I was just looking at it. 46 sacks on the year. So that's a lot. But I mean, talking about evenly matched average yards per play or yards per play for both teams. 5 Houston and Kansas City points scored. Houston 328, Kansas City 329. Rushing yards on the year for Houston 1,560. On the ground for Kansas City 1,570.
Wow.
Total yards 4,900 for Houston, 4,938 for Kansas City. Kansas City's got about 200 more yards on the ground rushing. Actually, I take that back. Only about 40 yards more rushing. Houston fumbles a little bit more. Kansas City throws a few more interceptions. Kansas City allows less sacks, but also gets less sacks. And everybody wants to get sacks. That's sacks is really important.
We love sacks here. Says.
Yeah, everybody wants to be having sacks.
Yep.
So I There we go. I got you on the live. Yep. Got him. All right. Big sacks guy over here.
Big sacks.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, one of the biggest gaps with points allowed. So Houston giving up 300 points. Kansas City's only giving up 259. Thank you, Black Voodoo Magic, for the assist on that.
Okay.
You can kind of squint your eyes and see how this season could look much different for the Chiefs. But I just don't think that we should sleep on this team.
No.
It's a different Texans team than what we've seen in the past. Yeah, I think we really should come into this game. I mean, they're 9-5. They're a good team.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's a chance they end up making the playoffs still, I believe.
Yeah. I think they can still win their division, or they're leading their division.
I'm about to say I forgot their division is really bad, so it's not. Yeah,
I was like,
I forgot.
Pretty sure they're going to be in the playoffs, my friend.
Yeah, I think so. Their division sucks.
Yeah,
it's definitely a good offense though, and Nico Collins, Tank Dell, John Mechie is out for the game. It looks like, so we won't have to worry about him. But Dalton Schultz at tight end, also Irv Smith Jr. is their second string tight end according to the depth chart. So old friend alert there. But the Chiefs have had some troubles guarding tight ends. Obviously, Dalton Schultz is a really good tight end, so that's going to be something to look at. And then they've got a pretty respectable offensive line. Obviously, they have Laramie Tunsil, who's just a stalwart at left tackle forever. It's definitely a formidable foe. Definitely cannot take them lightly. The defense has to do their job, get pressure on Shroud. That's always a big thing. We saw more pressure last week from the defense, which was good. Need more guys to show up though, besides Chris Jones still on a more consistent basis. George has been getting his run. He's been getting hot and cold a couple weeks. Tershawn Wharton has one or two every game, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Joe Mixon on this offense. Joe Mixon's looked good.
He looked really good.
Looks a little bit revitalized, and he's the guy there. He's got 11 touchdowns on the year, averaging 82 yards a game. Obviously, the Chiefs have done really well with their run defense this year. Mm-hmm. That's been a focal point, but that's tough. The other thing, obviously, so they've got a pretty nasty pass rush, and they beat you different ways. They've got Danielle Hunter, longtime Viking. We got Derek Barnett, longtime Eagle. Two vets out there, and then they've got some young guys, Will Anderson Jr., and then Mr. Bulletin Board Material himself, Tim Settle Jr. Thought that was interesting. I thought, if I were in charge of the odds for this game, I would suddenly be putting it all
so well for opponents. I'm surprised.
Yeah. We should not talk trash to Patrick Mahomes. But like those guys, Hunter's got 12, Anderson's got 10.5, Settle's got 5, Barnett's got 4. There's some other guys down, the roster who have, clean up sacks and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's a good team, good defense, and Will Anderson's pretty talented.
He's a dog. Number 3 overall pick last year. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got Derek Stingley Jr. They've got some talent on this defense, so it's going to be a tough matchup. There's hopefully going to be, as we talked about earlier, some rhythm and some running and some consistency on the offensive part. Like, we've got to match pace with these guys. They are a good team.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely offense is always, unfortunately these days, the more worrisome side of the ball. Just run the ball. That's the biggest thing. Just get Pacheco and Kareem going, get them just into the game flow more, get them more rhythm. There was talk all week about how Carson or Patrick Mahomes might potentially sit. You might play the game with Carson Wentz. Who knows how likely that would have ever been, but the game plan, you almost more of a dialed back vanilla game plan. It's like, just stick to the easy stuff. You're not trying to get, have Pat running around for his life out there again, especially nursing an ankle injury. Like, just could do some good, easy, solid football. That's just what we really need to see. Time your deep shot. If you're going to take some deep shots, just time them well. Don't do anything crazy like throwing in double coverage to Justin Watson. Let's be a little smarter about that kind of stuff and the shots that we end up taking. But that's just the biggest thing is finding balance on the offense and finding more of a rhythm and just moving the chains more than they did last week, because they did not move the chains very much at all. And it's just so many different reasons too. It's so hard to pinpoint, there's bad at one thing.
They got to get out of their own heads, and that includes the coaching staff, right? We don't need to be doing this cute stuff on 3rd and short. Line the ball up, run it. If you're not going to run it, do an end around, do a screen, do a quick dump, a hitch and go. Do something other than these weird passes, these weird convoluted things that it's like they overthink it, and that's, we want it to be smooth and, almost mechanical. I understand 3rd and 1 is it's harder to convert than what people think.
Yeah. They're expecting,
but everybody else does it. You're right. Like, and the Chiefs are really good on 3rd down, except for short yardage, which is just been a weird pattern. And some of it comes back to we overthink. We have a fullback on the roster. Like
I was thinking about it earlier the other day too. It's like earlier on the season we saw like Leo Chenal coming in at fullback. You remember that? They were bringing in Leo Chenal at fullback and having Carson Steele run the ball on short yard situations like that. Like, it's just it seems so straightforward, but also, like you said, I think overthinking is a huge thing of it, because like 3rd and 1, it's very predictable for you to run the ball. So that's maybe why they don't want to do it, and they decide, that's the time to take a shot downfield or something ridiculous. But it's like, just got to do good physical football, and that's, part of that. Like we've seen them try to run the ball a couple times on those short yard situations, and the offensive line gets bowled over. So it's just tricky. They're, for some reason, a very bad short yardage team, but like 3rd and 10, like I have way more confidence in the Chiefs converting 3rd and 10 than I have 3rd and 3 or less. Right. It's ridiculous. It's like it should be the opposite of that.
Line. And same thing with the goal line. It's like, all right, this is. Yeah,
they always get cute, and they always shovel pass 10 yards out. It's like, and they maybe run the shovel pass. If we're going to run the shovel pass, maybe you're like 3 yards out, because that play doesn't get you more than 3 yards. So it's just little timing things. I think they're really, they're trying to switch things up and be more unpredictable, but that's almost just hurting them because their unpredictability-ness isn't that good. They just need to go back to the basics and hammer out some key Andy Reid plays. I love seeing the end around. The Xavier Worthy end around has been popping off really nice. So like, do more of that on short yardage. Some of those screens that they've been running, especially with like Samaje Perine, like the Samaje Perine screens are more successful than most short yardage things they do, period. So I don't know. It should be interesting to see what version of the Chiefs show up. It's a noon game as well, so we know the Chiefs typically don't seem to wake up very quickly on those noon games, which is just fantastic. And already having a short week of rest and preparation, it might not be the prettiest, it might not be the prettiest game, but I still have a lot of confidence that they'll figure it out and overcome the odds that they are faced against with 3 games in whatever 11 days or 10 days that it was. It's tough. It's definitely a tough sled that they've been dealt. And
obviously, the league is all about the Chiefs and definitely wants them to win it all. And
really just cuts us all the breaks. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, they just get all the breaks, like 3 games in 10 days. It's fine.
Yeah, that's typical. That is typical for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Any other things that we don't think we've covered of this game before we get some score predictions and get out of here?
Yeah, just the score predictions. I know we're it's a Friday night. We got college football. We got other things going on, so we're gonna let you guys get out of here and cut loose fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
One last thing that we have to mention. It is the battle of the real punt god and maybe the imposter punt god. I'm not going to say who is who, but we are seeing old friend Tommy Townsend, who has very, very luscious flowing Some might say Jesus like locks, and then we also have Matt Ariza on the other side. So I'm not saying which one's the punt god. I'm not gonna say it. I'm just saying.
That's okay. Did you know Matt Ariza doesn't actually like the punt?
He doesn't like the nickname. You're right. He doesn't
come up with a new one.
I don't like the nickname either, personally. So
yeah,
I saw
punt prophet. Can we downgrade him? The punt prophet.
Well, I saw one that said just the punt guy. Maybe he's just the punt
guy.
Just
it's like the punt guy.
Because people also
like the punt guy.
The punt guy. Like, come on.
That's the guy who punts.
That's the punt
also
guy.
Knows a punter.
Punt guy, Matt Ariza. So
hopefully
we don't see Matt Ariza as much as we saw him last game. Shout out Matt Ariza.
Yeah. Shout out Matt Ariza.
And also shout out Tommy Townsend because he's still
I do miss Tommy.
Yeah. He's having a good year too. I mean, that is talk about special teams. That he's been a game changer for him. So okay. Score predictions. Tom, do you want to get into it?
So you can give yours and outro us because we both know I'll stumble and go on some kind of weird rant if you put me in charge of getting us out of here. So here's the thing. I think, like I said, I think it's going to be a tough game for the Chiefs. I think when you're talking 3 games in 10 days, you either understand and accept the mental challenge of that and really get into it. Or you let that beat you. I'm a little bit worried just based on some of the things that we've heard. We already know that players are kind of overwhelmed by this. So this is one of those games I think you're going to look at and go, we're going to test the championship DNA of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all good teams. That they're this is not. I could see this going a lot of different ways. I am going to do what I've done a couple times this year and have been wrong, I think, all but once. And I'm going to pick against the Chiefs. I think it's going to be like a 28, probably. 28 to 17, maybe 28 to 20 kind of game. I think that we're going to see some of that offense stalling out as they're trying to keep up. I think this offense on the Texans side has just enough juice to hang a couple points there. They've got some players that just seem to match up, cause matchup problems with Kansas City. They're still figuring out the secondary stuff. I love to be the doubter who is proven wrong. So I'm going to take this one for the team and go 28-20 Texans. Okay. And go ahead and roast me in the comments. I'm ready for it. I'm ready. But I will remind you that so far this has worked out more in our favor than it hasn't. So
that is true. That is true. Some might call it a jinx, but we won't. I don't. Exactly. Yeah. I don't hate your logic there for sure. It's definitely, it seems like a game against a very good, playoff caliber team that they can end up getting the best of us. I am going to disagree, though. I am going to pick the Chiefs to win. I think you made a really great point that you said that this is really a game that tests that championship DNA in a team. This is something, playoffs. Like a playoff game, also you also have the implications of like the 1 seed on the line, and you have Hollywood coming back and Mahomes coming back after a lot of people were doubting him. It just seems like a game. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a grind, and it's definitely not going to be pretty. I'll tell you that much. I mean, it's going to be about as typical of a Chiefs game I think that we've seen all year. I'm going to be in the ballpark of like 17-16 Chiefs. Like it's going to be that close and ugly. Like I think it might be a defensive game. I think the defense, there are some mismatches with the Texans offense, and they have a tendency to be very explosive. And Joe Mixon is historically a guy who's had some pretty good success versus the Chiefs. I think the defense is getting hot enough that they'll allow enough opportunities for the offense to hang in there and ultimately kind of hold the Texans to mostly field goals and whatnot. hopefully the Chiefs can get in the end zone a couple times and end up deciding it. But this is very much a game that I could see going the other way as well. I don't think I'd see it being as close of a blowout or as far of a blowout as you might predict, but I can definitely see the Texans just making the better decisions in crunch time that we haven't really seen the Chiefs be making these past couple of games, even though they've been winning at the end of it. But just little decisions at the end, 3rd and 2, throwing a shot to Xavier Worthy, stuff like that. That it's just like you really. In these kind of games, like when you're playing against really good teams, like the Texans are, like you can get away with it when you're doing against the Raiders and stuff like that, or the Broncos, or just stupid teams like that. But like a playoff team coming in, you cannot make those mistakes. And ultimately, I think if we do lose this game, it's going to be a lot more on the coaching staff and what their plan was than maybe what the actual play on the field was. So should be interesting. Should be a very fun game. Regardless, we'll end up seeing these guys a lot in the next couple of days. So hopefully the biggest thing is no one coming out of this game injured and most guys ready and healthy for the Christmas game. And then they'll have a little bit of an extended break after that. But these next 2 games, very crucial for the 1 seed potentially getting secured and setting a good path for the playoffs. So with that is all that we've got for you tonight. We appreciate everyone tuning in on this live stream tonight. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check us out over on YouTube, Kingdom Says over there, as well as Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts at. We will be back next week definitely before the Christmas Day game with the preview of that game and hopefully some other very exciting news that we are very excited to share in the meantime. But yeah, that's it. That's all we've got for you. Everybody enjoy your night. Enjoy the college football playoffs and everything else that's going on. And we will see you guys in the next episode of The Kingdom Says.